Now, the horse most synonymous with the Doncaster Cup in the modern era was Double Trigger, who won the race 3 times in the 90s. And I've been to Middleham to reflect on those successes with his trainer, Mark Johnston.
Down towards the final furlong, Double Trigger, game in front. Now he gets to work on Busy Flight. Will he stay? Can is held in third. They're inside the final 150 yards. Double Trigger finds just a little bit more. Inside the final 50 yards. Double Trigger!
So many fond memories, but at the same time it's a long time ago, and I suppose in some ways the significance built with every year that went past. And although that first Doncaster Cup was very significant in that, as you say, it completed the Stayers Triple Crown for the horse, for me probably it's the one that I remember least, because it came first, and although it was early in my career and he was a superstar of a horse that I'm probably remembered for more than any other horse to this day. But even so, nobody knew at that stage that, of course, he was a great horse. He'd won the Ascot Gold Cup. He was taking the Stayers Triple Crown. But who could have dreamt that he was going to go on till he was a 7-year-old and that he was going to win 3 Doncaster Cups and 3 Goodwood Cups? Yeah,
remarkable. But that year really was a golden year, 95, because, of course, he'd beaten Moonax at Ascot. And how could you ever forget the Goodwood win when he managed to get the better of his brother Double Eclipse in a titanic battle, wasn't it, to the line?
Yeah, no, that was, of course, his best year. There was no doubt about that. 95 was his best year, and ironically, because of the way things were calculated at the time, he wasn't made champion stayer at the end of the year. A horse called Strategic Choice was given the champion stayer title.
Seems astonishing, doesn't it?
It is astonishing.
What more would a horse need to do?
Exactly. It was based at the time on whoever had the highest rating, and Strategic Choice had run in a staying race, that being the Irish St Leger, and had finished 3rd in the King George that year, and was rated higher than Double Trigger and was given the title of champion stayer, despite the fact that Double Trigger had won every staying race that was going, basically. So, I think in most people's minds he was champion stayer in 95, and we thought he was verging on invincible.
Well, it appeared that way the year after, because he carried that wonderful form into 1996 and arrived back at Doncaster, having won at Sandown, having finished second to classic Cliché in the Ascot Gold Cup, and then got the better of a very good stare in Soleric.
Yeah, absolutely, and showed then that Frankie Dettori rode him on that occasion, and I think Double Trigger had sort of been considered, particularly from the Jason Weaver days, as a sort of one-dimensional horse that ran from the front and needed a particular type of jockey. Frankie was maybe the beginning of us seeing that you could ride him in different styles and in different ways, and the horse would still respond. And another great race, great memories, and special to have Frankie on him as well.
He was getting a little bit older, of course, by 98 when he came back to win his 3rd Doncaster Cup, and that, of course, in more recent times, recent decades, is unprecedented. This time got the better of a horse called Busy Flight, and Darrell Holland was the man in the saddle.
Yes, and that year, Trigger was coming back from probably his leanest spell in 97 and into the early part of 98, and things hadn't really gone well from him. We'd had a couple of niggling injury problems, and we just didn't feel he was his old self, really. But when he got to his old races, Goodwood and Doncaster, he bounced back with a vengeance, and bounced back firstly at Goodwood, and then went into the Doncaster Cup with us pretty sure by that time, we were having problems with him, and it had been a long tough career, and we were pretty certain that was going to be his last race. So great build up to that race. I think his East Coast Rail, or whatever they were called at the time, had already decided they were going to call a railway engine after him. There were 2 different post-race plans by the racecourse for if Double Trigger won or if Double Trigger didn't win. His stable hand, Geordie Charlton, who had looked after Trigger since he was a yearling, but Geordie was a very small guy, or is this very small guy. I saw him the other day at Ripon, and also was coming to the end of his close to retirement age at the time, and Double Trigger was not the easiest horse to handle. So Geordie didn't actually tend to go racing with him, although he looked after him at home. But on that occasion, he was there to lead him in after the race. There was a special, a separate paddock sheet for the for the winners sheet that day had been made in case Double Trigger won the race, and he was taken to parade in front of the stands after winning, which is it's done in a few races now, but at that time something we never saw on British racecourses. So a very, very special day, and obviously the end of his career, and to finish on a high note like that was just wonderful. That was one of the most memorable days racing I've ever had.
In more recent times, the Doncaster Cup has produced some equally stirring performances, including Persian Puncher's gallant display in 2003 for David Ellsworth, when he became the oldest ever winner of the race at the age of 10.
He was around for a long time. He raced from when he was 3 so he raced 7 seasons, and travelled to Australia, and gave us lots of, you know, he never had an unbeaten record to defend. He got beaten plenty of times, but he came back and won plenty of races too. He was a real stalwart, and there were heady days. It was great days.
Yeah, he bounced back at Doncaster that day because he'd won the Goodwood Cup, of course, earlier in the season. Then he'd gone to York and been beaten, but he was certainly on his A game at Doncaster.
He certainly was. He won very easily at Doncaster. Well, it looked easy. I'm sure it was hard work from poor old Punch's point of view, but he won well. He won 7 lengths, you tell me. Yeah.
You say he's a horse who did take a defeat on the chin, but he kept on bouncing back. Did he give you signs at home that he might be ready to recapture his winning form when he had run a bad race?
Yeah, I don't think we ever thought he'd run a bad race. We were disappointed on occasions when it didn't happen and he didn't win, but he always ran very well. And you know, he was a delight to train. He loved his work. I remember at Whitsbury, his box, as I went out my back door into the yard, his box was on the left. And during the summer months, I used to take him out for a walk during stable time, give him a pick of grass, which he enjoyed, and we both enjoyed it. But on occasions, I'd have something on or I wasn't there, and he'd be looking for me. And if I did want to go into the yard, I had to go out the front door to avoid him. Otherwise, he'd knock the box down because he wanted to go for his walk. So he was a very intelligent, attentive horse. He knew exactly what he was, a proper professional racehorse. And he enjoyed life and he enjoyed being trained.
You've had many great horses in all different spheres over the years, but I suppose he'd rate right up there amongst your favourites.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. He was. Bought him as a 2-year-old yearling down here at Tattersalls. Not a lot of money, about 16,000 I think, and he was great fun. You know, we really did have very, very numerous and happy memories of him.